Hey there, welcome to Commentary. I hope you're all doing alright, having a good day and all that. As you can probably tell, my throat's not in the best of form right now, so sorry if my voice is a little fucked up. There's not much I can do about it. This week, we're just gonna have a small little conversation about inspiration. Inspiration is really interesting. I mean, you can be inspired by virtually anything. Or you should be able to be inspired by virtually anything, but I'll get more into that in a second. So, in theory, you can look at a broken rubber band, and that can be your inspiration. That could inspire you to write a song, because you could pluck it and you could hear something and be like, oh, sick, that sounds cool. That's a note. I'm gonna write a song based on that. Believe it or not, I've never written a song. So, I'm sure I'm explaining that terribly. Maybe you just want to write a song about how the rubber band feels. Always being pulled and stretched and people trying to tear it apart. I don't know. I have no idea. Music is weird. If you're an artist, maybe it inspires you to draw a ripped rubber band, or a whole rubber band, or a rubber band being stretched. Doesn't have to be a rubber band. Rubbers could inspire you. You could look at a rubber and be like, hey. Or an eraser, sorry, Americans. You could look at an eraser and be like, ooh, I'm gonna draw this, or I'm gonna write a song. Ed Sheeran wrote a song called Eraser. I'm on the same wavelength as Ed Sheeran, alright? That's what this means. But yeah, like, virtually anything should be able to give you inspiration. Our generation, however, has this unbelievable ability to just not be inspired. it goes hand in hand with laziness, I'll be honest. We don't have the energy to do anything. We don't have the energy to be inspired, and it's really sad, actually. You know, like, there's these 30, 40-year-old artists who are making all of this amazing stuff. 20 to 40, we'll say, but below 20. In terms of art, I haven't seen that much, I'll be honest. I know a couple of artists who are amazing under the age of 20, but it's a much smaller demographic. Because it's harder to find inspiration. Or if they are amazing artists, often they don't do too much art because they run out of inspiration or they lack it. Or they lack the ability to appreciate the inspiration, I suppose, is the best way of phrasing it. Because I think we're all guilty of taking inspiration for granted. Because it's everywhere. It really is everywhere. Everything is inspiring, should be inspiring. Has the ability to inspire, and yet we are uninspired to a hellish extent. I mean, I don't think there's a single person under the age of 20 who isn't currently struggling to get out of bed in the morning. COVID kind of fucked everyone up a little. The lockdowns were necessary but painful. The aftermath of that has been atrocious on people's mental health, and it's a shame, but again, a necessary one. There's very little we could have done about it, and it is what it is. Make sure you go vaccinated so we don't have to go into another fucking lockdown. Lose my shit if we end up in another one because your dumbass didn't get fucking vaccinated. If you can't get vaccinated, then well, fuck. If you can, and you're just not because you're an asshole, then stop being an asshole. I don't want to lose inspiration again. Like, lockdown ideally is when I should have gotten back to streaming, right? I could have been streaming for 2 years now, full time, back at it. But it was when lockdown ended that I got back into streaming because I found inspiration. I found things that I wanted to do. I found things that were happening that I was interested in doing. I was inspired because I was free to be so. And of course there is the inspiration in my room, but I've used up most of that. You know, of course there's no rule that once you've been inspired by something you can't be inspired by it again. That's fair, but it's harder to be inspired by it again. It takes a little more effort. and I was running out of effort to get inspired by things the first time, so getting inspired a second time was a nightmare. um, People have insane ways of finding inspiration, but it's not always gonna have to be that difficult. A lot of the time, you can just look shit up. You can just look up inspiration for whatever the fuck you're trying to do. And I watched a video on art. I watched a lot of videos on art recently, especially drawing with Jazza, Jaden Animations, the old animation channels that used to do story times and stuff. Actually, I don't know if Drawing with Jazza did story times. He might have done one or two, but it's mostly drawing and tutorials that I've noticed on his channel. But there was a video, and I don't remember who it was by, but it was for beginner artists, and in it they say, just draw. Because you're sitting around waiting for inspiration, and inspiration's never going to come. Because inspiration doesn't just come from nothing. Inspiration comes from action. You don't act due to your inspiration, you're inspired due to your action. And it was really interesting, and it was a very good point. That you don't just get inspired, you have to actively do something to be inspired, and we're not willing to put in that effort as a generation to be inspired. That's what I've been trying to push. And there's no reason really why we shouldn't be able to put in that effort, but there's a lot of reasons that we aren't able to. And it's a difficult thing to address, being like, hey, you shouldn't feel like this. Obviously, you've every right to feel how you feel, because it's feelings and you can't control them. So, you should feel however you want to feel, but not like this. You shouldn't feel uninspired. That's not right, because there's so much that can inspire you. And I realize the irony of me preaching this, of all people. I genuinely do, when I am quite possibly one of the least inspired people on the planet. There's other planets, on the planets. But, hey, even if it's a little hypocritical, it's still right. Like, sure, I'm in the wrong as well. And acknowledging that doesn't change anything. I'm not deluded, I don't think. This is the first step to recovery, is my acceptance of my lack of inspiration, my laziness. I understand that I'm not going to change anytime soon, and I just need to maximize my efficiency during the time I do have inspiration, during the times I'm not being lazy. And I think that's what a lot of us need to do, because I don't think we're capable of turning things around again. I mean, it took a whole pandemic to uninspire us. Of course, some of us had lost inspiration before that, but I think there's a mentality amongst everyone who spent the 2 years in... I'm saying 2 years. I know different countries had different regulations. Some places it was probably less. Some places it might have been more. I'm not sure. For us, 2 years feels like an apt descriptor, and there was breaks in between and whatnot, but whatever. During the 2 years of lockdown, we all fell a lot more uninspired. And maybe there's gonna be some huge event that'll re-inspire all of us. Maybe someone will find a way. But I'm not sure, and I think we shouldn't bank on that. We should learn to work with what we've got right now. And it's a little sad, it's a little stressful, but it's fine, it's alright, we can work with it. We just need to help each other out sometimes, and we need to give each other that extra little push here and there. And we can do that. It's not that hard. It's just, hey, have you done this? Because you talked about doing it, so you might as well. That's it. That's the whole sentence you need to say to push someone to do something, because they'll start to think about the fact that you're expecting them to do it, and eventually they'll get around to doing it. for whatever reason, people tend to do things once people have expectations that aren't themselves. So hopefully, I will see you next week for that video. If anyone gives me shit for not having made a video yet, or mentions the fact that I make videos. But yeah, thanks for listening to the TED Talk this week. I'll see you next week. Bye.